The human fleet glided silently through the purple-streaked atmosphere of Zilara. Their ship, sleek and silver, reflected the soft glow of the distant sun. Commander Ethan Kane stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes fixed on the vast alien city below. He had been trained for many kinds of missions, but nothing could have prepared him for the sight of this citadel. Zilara's capital was a marvel. Towers of shimmering crystal rose high into the sky, spiraling like the shells of ancient seashells. Bridges of light connected the towers, and enormous gardens floated mid-air, suspended by technology that defied human understanding. From this height, the city seemed alive, pulsing with energy and light yet perfectly ordered. Humans called it a living city, and it lived up to the name. The human delegation had been sent as ambassadors carrying messages of peace and proposals for technological exchange. Ethan's role was security. He had trained all his life to protect diplomats, but there was something about this place that made him alert in ways he couldn't explain. Every shadow seemed to move with intent. Every light seemed to hide a secret. Inside the citadel, Queen Zarath observed the human fleet from her throne room. Her throne floated slightly above the ground, made of a material that shimmered like liquid silver. She had ruled Zilara for decades, and she was known for her intelligence, decisiveness, and unshakable composure. Yet today something made her pause. Reports arrived swiftly. The human diplomats had landed, and the security detail included one Captain Kane. When the images of the delegation's guards appeared on her view screens, her composed expression faltered. One of the humans looked startlingly familiar. He had the same sharp jawline, the same deep-set eyes, and the same confident posture. Zarath's heart skipped. It had been decades since she had last seen him. The memories came unbidden, laughter echoing in the corridors of their old shared ship, the debates over exploration missions, the warmth of his hand in hers. Her ex-husband had vanished on a mission long ago, leaving her with questions and guilt that never faded. And now here was a man who could be his twin, or worse, a living copy. Zarath ordered the human delegation to wait. Only Kane would be brought forward. Her advisors exchanged nervous glances. The Queen had never shown weakness in public. Her reaction was unusual, even unsettling, but they knew better than to question her. Meanwhile, Ethan and his team were escorted through the gates of the citadel. The air inside was different, thicker somehow, charged with a strange energy that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. Alien guards, tall and lithe, with translucent skin and luminescent markings, flanked the hallways. Their movements were fluid, almost dance-like, and their eyes glimmered like opals. Ethan had trained for hostile environments, but he could not prepare for the grace and precision of these beings. Every step they took seemed intentional, every gesture precise. Ethan felt both admiration and unease. He had faced dangers before, but Zilara's civilization was not just advanced, it was alive in ways humans had never encountered. The delegation entered the main chamber, where Queen Zarath waited. The room was vast, circular, and decorated with floating holograms showing Zilara's history. The walls shimmered with soft light, and the floor reflected the ceiling so perfectly that it seemed like walking on a mirror of the sky. When Ethan's group arrived, the room fell silent. The Queen's gaze settled on him and a chill ran down his spine. She studied him as if seeing not just his face but his very soul. He stood tall, his military training keeping him steady, but he could sense her intensity. "Captain Kane," Zarath said, her voice melodic yet sharp. "Step forward." Ethan nodded and walked alone to the center of the chamber. Every eye in the room followed him, human and alien alike. He felt the weight of 1,000 questions pressing upon him. He had been trained to handle threats, but this was different. This was personal, though he did not yet understand why. The Queen circled him slowly, her eyes narrowing, her mind racing. Every feature, every movement of Kane's reminded her of her past. She had to know. Was this man a coincidence, or had fate brought her something more? She had questions she had never dared to ask anyone, and now the answers might be standing before her. "Tell me," she said finally, her voice soft but commanding. "Who are you?" Ethan blinked. "I am Captain Ethan Kane of the United Earth Expeditionary Fleet. I am here as part of the delegation to discuss collaboration and technology exchange. I serve as security for the team." Zarath paused. The words were correct, but the voice, the tone, it was so familiar. She fought to maintain her composure. She could not reveal her inner turmoil. Not here, not now. Her advisors noticed her hesitation and exchanged worried glances. Ethan continued, unaware of the storm he had triggered. I am trained in combat strategy and diplomacy. I have no other mission beyond what I am assigned. I serve my team and my people. The Queen leaned back slightly, considering. She had dealt with countless diplomats, negotiators, and spies. None had made her feel this unsettled. She needed to know more. She would test him subtly and see if he truly was who he claimed to be, or if there was a secret hidden beneath his human face. Your appearance is unusual, Zareth said carefully. It reminds me of someone I once knew.
Perhaps an ancestor?
She observed his reaction closely. Ethan tilted his head. I do not understand, Your Majesty. I am not aware of any connection to your people beyond this mission. Her mind raced. Could it be possible? Genetic engineering, cloning? Or was it simply chance, a trick of memory and time? She would not allow herself to jump to conclusions yet. She had to be cautious. The audience concluded with formalities, and the human delegation was escorted to their quarters. Ethan noted the grandeur of the citadel but could not shake the feeling that someone, or something, was observing him closely. Every glance from an alien guard seemed loaded with meaning. Later, in private, Zareth called her advisors. Prepare a detailed record of this human, she said. I want his history, his family, his training, everything. And keep this quiet. No one outside this room may know. The advisors nodded, aware of the Queen's unusual intensity. For the first time in her reign, Zareth felt a stir of uncertainty. She had ruled Zalara through wisdom and strategy. Yet here was a human who unsettled her, not through power or technology, but through a haunting resemblance to someone she had lost. Ethan, unaware of the stir he had caused, settled into his quarters. He gazed out at the floating gardens of Zalara, wondering what lay ahead. He had faced alien civilizations before, but none like this. And while he did not know it yet, he had triggered a chain of events that would uncover secrets of the past, test loyalties, and show the alien queen and her people the resilience and courage of humanity. That night, Zareth could not sleep. She wandered the upper terraces of her citadel, staring at the stars. Memories of her ex-husband mingled with visions of the human captain. Questions without answers filled her mind. Was it coincidence? Or had the universe in some mysterious way brought him back to her life? As dawn broke over Zalara, the city shimmered with light, reflecting both the sun and the rising tension within the palace. Humanity had arrived, and one man, by the mere virtue of his existence, had begun to change the course of history, both for humans and for the alien civilization of Zalara. And thus began the story of an unlikely connection, where courage, curiosity, and compassion would bridge the gap between worlds, and where one human guard's presence would challenge an alien queen to confront the past she had long tried to forget. The morning sun of Zalara cast long golden streaks across the floating gardens, and the alien city shimmered as if alive. Captain Ethan Kane walked through the corridors of the citadel alongside his team, his eyes scanning every corner. Despite the beauty of the crystalline halls, a sense of unease lingered. The alien guards moved silently, their glowing markings shifting in subtle patterns, as though communicating without words. Ethan had served in countless missions, yet he had never felt such a strange mixture of awe and tension. This civilization was advanced far beyond human technology, and every detail seemed meticulously designed. Yet he could sense that not all here was visible. Something or someone watched him closely. Later that day, he received an unexpected summons. He was to meet Queen Zareth in private. His orders were simple: maintain composure, follow protocol, and observe carefully. But even as he approached the chamber, Ethan could feel the weight of history pressing upon him, though he did not yet understand why. Zareth awaited him, seated on her floating throne. The room was quieter than usual, the usual soft hum of energy seeming to hold its breath. As Ethan stepped forward, she studied him with intensity. Every movement, every gesture, every glance seemed to carry memories she could not contain. Captain Kane, she began, her voice even yet tinged with curiosity. You are unlike any human I have encountered. Tell me what motivates you. Ethan remained calm. Duty, Your Majesty. I serve my team and my people. I protect those entrusted to me. That is my purpose. The Queen leaned forward, her eyes narrowing slightly. And yet, she said slowly. "There is something more. A presence in you. A familiarity I cannot explain. Are you aware of any connections to Zalara beyond this mission?" Ethan hesitated. "None, Your Majesty. I have trained extensively, and I have a strong understanding of alien protocols, but I am not connected to your people beyond this diplomatic mission." Zareth studied him for a long moment. She had dealt with countless diplomats, spies, and warriors, yet Ethan's presence stirred emotions she had not felt in decades. Memories of her ex-husband, the explorer who had vanished, flooded her mind. His laughter, his calm confidence, his endless curiosity. And now here was a man who mirrored all of it. She decided to test him, not with weapons or puzzles, but with subtle observations. Over the next several hours, she posed scenarios, each designed to reveal not just skill but character. She watched how he reacted under pressure, how he treated those around him, how he balanced duty with empathy. Ethan passed every challenge with precision and thoughtfulness. When presented with ethical dilemmas, he did not choose the easiest path. He chose the path that protected the innocent, even when it carried risk. Zareth felt a spark of recognition, not of his identity, but of the qualities she remembered in her lost husband. Meanwhile, Ethan noticed subtle signs of unusual attention. The Queen's gaze lingered longer than expected, and her questions often probed beyond protocol. He sensed that she was trying to understand him, not just as a human, but as something more. Yet he respected her privacy and did not pry, maintaining his professional demeanor. Later, when the formal audience concluded, Zareth summoned her advisors in private. "Prepare a full record of this human," she instructed. "Every detail of his life, his lineage, his training. And keep it secure. No one outside this chamber may know." Her advisors exchanged silent glances. The Queen's interest in a human was unusual, unprecedented even. Yet they knew better than to question her. They could see the conflict in her eyes, the mixture of authority, curiosity, and something deeper, almost personal. As the day progressed, Zareth allowed herself a brief walk along the upper terraces of her citadel. From here she could see the human settlement and the shimmering gardens that defied gravity. Her mind drifted to the past, to the man who had once shared her life, whose sudden disappearance had left questions and regrets. Ethan, meanwhile, began exploring the citadel under careful observation. He studied the technology, fascinated by how it seemed both organic and mechanical. Light flowed through conduits in ways humans had never imagined, and the floating gardens operated on principles that challenged his understanding of physics. Yet he did not lose sight of his mission, to protect his delegation and to understand the alien world. During one of these walks, he stumbled upon an archive partially hidden that seemed to hold historical records. Using his training, he gained access, hoping to learn more about Zalara's history. As he scanned the holographic displays, he noticed records of past missions, explorers, and events that seemed oddly familiar. Some details resonated with stories he had heard during his training, stories about collaborations between humans and aliens decades ago. Back in her private chambers, Zareth reviewed surveillance and reports about Ethan's movements. She noted his curiosity, his intelligence, and his empathy, qualities that reminded her of her ex-husband. But more than that, she sensed a deeper connection. Could it be coincidence, or had the universe orchestrated something beyond her understanding? Her thoughts were interrupted when a senior advisor entered the room. "Your Majesty, our preliminary analysis suggests that Captain Kane's training and lineage are exceptional. There is no record of anyone like him in human history, or so it seems." Zareth nodded slowly. "Prepare a secure chamber. I wish to conduct further interviews, discreetly, and ensure no one in the palace staff is aware." The advisor hesitated. "Your Majesty, if he is indeed connected to your past—" "Silence," she said firmly. "I will not allow speculation. Only facts, only observation. We will uncover the truth." Meanwhile, Ethan returned to his quarters for rest. Yet sleep did not come easily. He sensed a tension in the citadel that was both subtle and pervasive. The aliens respected discipline, and their observation was unlike anything humans had experienced. He could feel their curiosity and intelligence probing him, testing him, evaluating him. And then there was the Queen. Her presence was commanding, yet her interest felt almost personal. Over the next few days, Ethan continued to perform his duties while carefully observing the Queen's behavior. She watched him closely during meetings, her questions often probing deeper than protocol required. Ethan noticed the way her gaze lingered, the slight hesitation before she spoke, the subtle expressions that revealed thought and emotion. One evening, Zareth invited him to the gardens, a private area reserved for rare visitors. The floating gardens glimmered under the twin moons, and alien plants with bioluminescent petals cast soft light over the stone pathways. Here the Queen asked questions about his upbringing, his values, and his experiences. Ethan answered honestly, unaware that his words stirred old memories in her mind. "Tell me, Captain Kane," she asked, "what drives a human to risk everything for strangers? For a mission that may bring no reward?" Ethan looked at her, his eyes steady. "We value connection, Your Majesty. We value trust, and sometimes we find purpose in protecting others, even at great personal cost. That is what I have been trained to do, and it is what I choose to do." Zareth listened silently. She could not deny the resonance of his words. They were the same principles her ex-husband had spoken of, the same courage and empathy she had admired. She began to wonder, was this merely coincidence, or was it destiny in disguise? The night deepened, and the alien gardens glowed with a serene light. For a moment, Queen Zareth allowed herself to consider a possibility she had long avoided, that Captain Kane, though human, could teach her something about bravery, about compassion, and about hope. And perhaps, unknowingly, he could help her reconcile a past she had carried for far too long. As Ethan left the gardens, he felt a quiet respect for the Queen. She was unlike any leader he had encountered, wise, intelligent, and thoughtful, yet capable of deep emotions and introspection. He could sense that their interactions would not be easy, yet they were shaping a path that neither could have predicted. And so, the days passed with quiet tension and subtle understanding. The Queen's curiosity grew, tempered by caution. Ethan's awareness of her observation sharpened, tempered by professionalism. Between them, a silent connection formed, unspoken, yet undeniable. Unknown to both, their interactions had set in motion events that would challenge their courage, their loyalty, and their understanding of history. Secrets of the past long buried were beginning to surface, and humanity, through the presence of one exceptional individual, was about to leave an indelible mark on the alien civilization of Zalara. Thus, the story of suspicion, recognition, and unspoken understanding unfolded. Captain Ethan Kane remained unaware of the true significance of his presence, while Queen Zareth wrestled with emotions she had long suppressed. The stage was set for discoveries that would test both their hearts and their worlds. The morning light spilled across the crystalline towers of Zalara, painting the city in shades of gold and violet. The air was alive with energy, and the floating gardens reflected the sun's rays in a soft shimmer. For Captain Ethan Kane, the beauty of the city was both inspiring and overwhelming. He had grown accustomed to witnessing strange worlds, yet Zalara's combination of technology and natural elegance left him awestruck. Yet beauty could not hide the tension that had been growing since his arrival. Ethan sensed it in the subtle way the Queen observed him, in the careful attention of the alien guards, and in the way the corridors seemed to hum with unspoken anticipation. Something lay beneath the surface, and he was determined to understand it, not just for the mission, but for his own curiosity about this remarkable civilization. Zareth, meanwhile, had spent a restless night in her chambers, contemplating the man who reminded her so strongly of her lost husband. Her advisors had begun discreet investigations, compiling reports on Ethan's life, training, and possible connections to Zalara. Yet the Queen's own instincts told her that the truth could not be found solely in records. She needed dialogue, interaction, and careful observation. She summoned Ethan for a private meeting in a secluded wing of the Citadel, a chamber lined with holographic archives and historical displays. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of energy flowing through the walls, and the floating platforms allowed the Queen to move smoothly from one side to another as she observed him. "Captain Kane," she began, her voice steady yet thoughtful, "I have learned much about your skills, your training, and your character. You demonstrate courage and intelligence, qualities that are unusual even among humans." Ethan inclined his head politely. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only try to do my duty to the best of my ability." Zareth studied him carefully. "And yet, I see in you echoes of someone from my past, someone I once knew." someone who vanished long ago under circumstances that were never fully explained. Her voice softened, almost imperceptibly. Do you know anything about Zalara's history with human explorers? Ethan paused. He had been trained in diplomacy and security, but this question was unexpected. I know that humans have had limited contact with Zalara in the past. Some stories speak of collaborative missions, and occasionally of explorers who disappeared. But my own history does not connect to your civilization, at least not knowingly. The Queen's eyes narrowed, studying him closely. His tone, his posture, and even a faint smile brought memories rushing back. The way he responded mirrored the calm confidence she had once known. Could it be mere coincidence? Or was there a more deliberate connection? I want to know more about you, Zareth said. Not just your skills or training, but your origin, your family, your upbringing, all of it. Ethan nodded, sensing that this was more than a standard inquiry. He decided to share cautiously, speaking of his childhood, his training in Earth's expeditionary forces, and the experiences that had shaped him. He spoke of missions to distant planets, of encounters with strange phenomena, and of the lessons learned about humanity's resilience and ingenuity. As he spoke, Zareth listened intently. She noted the choices he had made, the courage displayed in the face of danger, and the compassion he showed to those he protected. Each detail, each decision reminded her of the man she had lost, her husband, who had vanished decades ago during a classified mission to explore the edges of known space. When Ethan finished, Zareth hesitated. Her next words were delicate, chosen with care. There was someone I knew long ago. He was a human explorer, brave and clever, full of curiosity. He vanished during a mission many years ago. His absence left questions I have carried for decades. Ethan listened quietly, sensing the weight behind her words. I cannot claim to be him, he said gently. But I am human, and I carry the lessons and spirit of those who came before me. Perhaps in some way our missions are connected, through the choices we make and the paths we follow. Zareth's eyes glistened, though she quickly blinked away the emotion. It is more than connection through choice, she said. There is a resemblance, in face, in mannerisms, in presence. I cannot explain it, and yet I feel it strongly. Your very existence challenges the boundaries of what I thought possible. Ethan was intrigued. He had studied alien biology and technology, but had never encountered anything like this. Could genetic engineering have played a role? Was there a secret experiment linking humans and Zalara? The question stirred both curiosity and caution in his mind. Over the following days, Ethan began subtle investigations, exploring the Citadel's restricted archives. He used his training to gain access to historical records, cross-referencing data from decades past. What he discovered surprised him. There were documents detailing human-alien collaborations decades ago, missions that had involved experimental research and advanced genetic studies. Some missions involved volunteers who disappeared mysteriously. The pieces began to form a pattern, though the picture was incomplete. Ethan realized that he might be connected to these missions, not necessarily by direct lineage, but perhaps as a product of experimental programs intended to bridge human and alien capabilities. The thought was startling, but he approached it logically. Whatever the truth, it had placed him here, standing before Queen Zareth, stirring memories and questions she had long tried to bury. Meanwhile, Zareth observed Ethan's curiosity. His intelligence, his cautious approach, and his empathy reminded her not just of her ex-husband, but of the qualities she admired most in humanity: adaptability, courage, and ingenuity. She realized that even if Ethan was not her husband, he represented a bridge between past and present, between human and alien civilizations. In a private conversation with her senior advisors, she voiced her thoughts cautiously. Captain Kane is no ordinary human. There is something in him that echoes the past. We must observe carefully, and yet we must not underestimate him. He may hold the key to understanding events that have remained hidden for decades. The advisors nodded, understanding the delicate balance required. They began compiling detailed reports of Ethan's interactions, movements, and skills, while maintaining strict secrecy. The Queen's interest was personal yet measured, and the advisors knew it was not their place to question her judgment. One evening, Ethan and Zareth met again in the archives, this time surrounded by floating holograms of Zalara's past explorers and missions. "Captain Kane," she began, her voice calm but tinged with intensity. "Look at these records. Humans have been part of our history in ways most of my people do not know. Some were brave, some vanished, and yet there is one thread that connects many of these stories. A thread of courage, intelligence, and a willingness to face the unknown." Ethan studied the holograms carefully, noting the dates, missions, and outcomes. "I see what you mean, Your Majesty," he said. "Humans take risks, explore the unknown, and often act on trust and courage. Perhaps that is what makes us remarkable. Perhaps that is why we survive even in situations where logic would say we cannot." Zarath's eyes softened. "Yes, and perhaps that is why you are here. Not just as a human guard, but as a symbol of something greater. You remind me that humanity is unpredictable, capable, and resilient. Qualities that even Zalara has not always seen in full." Ethan felt a deep respect for the Queen. Her insight, her wisdom, and her openness to understanding impressed him. He realized that trust and communication could build bridges not only between individuals, but between civilizations. As the sun set over Zalara, painting the floating gardens in hues of gold and rose, the two continued their discussion, exchanging stories, ideas, and insights. The connection between them grew, subtle yet undeniable. Ethan's presence stirred memories and emotions in Zarath, while Zarath's wisdom and perspective challenged Ethan to think beyond the limits of his own experience. Unknown to both, the delicate bond forming between human and alien would soon be tested. Rival factions within the Alien Council were already observing, sensing the potential influence of this unusual human. Threats, political intrigue, and challenges awaited, and the lessons of the past would become crucial in navigating the future. And so, the secrets of the past began to surface. Captain Ethan Kane, unknowingly connected to a forgotten chapter of history, had become more than a guard or diplomat. He had become a living reminder of courage, curiosity, and the potential of humanity, and Queen Zarath, faced with emotions she had long suppressed, had to confront the truth that the past could not be ignored, and that the future depended on understanding, trust, and the unpredictable brilliance of humans. The citadel of Zalara gleamed in the early light, but beneath its beauty, tension simmered. Queen Zarath sensed it in the subtle movements of her advisors, in the whispers of alien council members, and in the careful scrutiny of her guards. The arrival of the human delegation, and especially Captain Ethan Kane, had disrupted the balance of power. Some factions saw the humans as an opportunity, others as a threat. Zarath's unease grew. Though she had come to respect Ethan's courage and intelligence, she knew that not all in her council would share her judgment. Some would see his resemblance to her ex-husband as a challenge, a way to exploit emotions for political gain. She could not allow this. Zalara's stability and the safety of the humans depended on careful action. Ethan, meanwhile, continued his duties while quietly observing the citadel. His presence had begun to attract attention, and he sensed the undercurrents of politics and rivalry. Unlike previous missions, this environment was not merely about survival or combat. It was about understanding a civilization whose customs, alliances, and conflicts were deeply interwoven. It began subtly. Reports came to Ethan of minor sabotage, communication systems disrupted, access to archives delayed, and unusual patterns in guard patrols. Someone was testing him, probing for weaknesses. He could not yet identify the source, but he knew it was deliberate. He reported everything to Zarath, who nodded thoughtfully, her mind already formulating a plan. "Captain Kane," she said during one meeting, "your presence here has created both opportunity and danger. Some members of my council are uncomfortable, suspicious, or even hostile. You must understand that your actions are observed closely, and any misstep could have consequences." Ethan listened carefully. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will follow protocol, protect the delegation, and act with caution. But I also believe that trust and cooperation can prevent conflict. We should look for solutions, not assume threats at every turn." Zarath allowed herself a small approving smile. Wise words. It seems humans can surprise even the most experienced of alien leaders. That evening, an emergency meeting was called. Reports indicated a covert attempt to interfere with the delegation's quarters. Guards had discovered unauthorized access points, and the attackers had left behind evidence of advanced sabotage techniques. Zareth's advisors warned her that the council's rival factions were gaining boldness. Ethan volunteered to investigate personally. With a small team of trusted Zelleran guards, he traced the intrusion to hidden tunnels beneath the citadel. The tunnels were dimly lit, walls pulsating with energy, and every corner seemed alive with potential danger. But Ethan's training guided him. He moved with precision, observing every detail, analyzing every possibility. They reached a chamber where a group of alien operatives were attempting to breach a secure archive. Ethan and his team acted swiftly. Using strategy and skill, they managed to neutralize the threat without harming the intruders. Ethan's combination of human ingenuity and careful planning impressed the Zelleran guards, earning their trust and admiration. When the Queen received the report, she felt a mixture of relief and pride. Ethan had proven himself not only brave but capable of navigating complexities beyond simple combat. His actions had prevented potential disaster and had shown the Council that humans were resourceful allies, not mere outsiders. Yet the danger was far from over. Rival factions began mobilizing subtle campaigns to discredit the delegation, spreading rumors and manipulating information. They saw Ethan as a symbol of the Queen's personal vulnerability, and they sought to exploit it. Zareth realized that diplomacy alone would not suffice. She needed to act decisively with courage and strategy. She called Ethan to a private audience in the council chamber, a space usually reserved for the highest-ranking leaders. "Captain Kane," she said, her voice firm, "we are facing threats from within my own council. Some members see your presence as a challenge to their authority. You have proven your courage, but we must act together to ensure the safety of your delegation and the stability of Zellara." Ethan nodded. "I am ready to assist, Your Majesty. Tell me what needs to be done." Zareth outlined a plan. They would identify the rival factions, gather evidence of their conspiracies, and secure key archives and communications. Ethan would lead a combined team of human and Zelleran operatives, using his experience in strategy and reconnaissance. It was risky, but necessary. Over the next several days, Ethan and Zareth worked closely, coordinating operations, analyzing intelligence, and monitoring council activity. Their partnership grew stronger. Zareth admired Ethan's ability to remain calm under pressure, his careful judgment, and his willingness to consider alternative solutions. Ethan, in turn, respected the Queen's wisdom, decisiveness, and her ability to balance emotion with strategy. One night, during a covert operation to secure a hidden archive, Ethan discovered encrypted files revealing past council conspiracies. The files contained details of alien factions that had attempted to manipulate diplomatic missions decades ago, sometimes endangering human explorers. The revelation was shocking. Humans had been unknowingly involved in interstellar politics far longer than they realized, and the echoes of past actions were still influencing present events. Zareth reviewed the files with Ethan. "These records, they confirm suspicions I have long held. Some factions seek power through manipulation, using emotion and fear to control decisions. They would not hesitate to harm outsiders or even their own citizens to achieve their goals." Ethan frowned. "Then we must act carefully but decisively. We cannot allow history to repeat itself. Humans and Zellara have the potential for great cooperation, but only if we can prevent these factions from undermining trust." Together, they devised a strategy to expose the conspirators without creating open conflict. It involved careful coordination, using both human ingenuity and Zelleran technology. Ethan's experience in tactical planning, combined with Zareth's authority and deep knowledge of the Council, allowed them to anticipate the rivals' moves. The operation began at dawn. Ethan led a team through hidden corridors, using stealth and strategy to position themselves near key council chambers. Zareth coordinated communications, ensuring that loyal factions were prepared and informed. Timing was critical, and any error could result in disaster. As the rivals gathered for a council session, their plans to discredit the delegation were revealed. Evidence of sabotage, manipulation, and hidden agendas was presented to the full council. The conspirators were caught off guard, unable to deny the facts. Loyal members of the council, guided by Zareth's leadership, moved to secure control of critical systems and archives. Ethan's role was pivotal. His presence, strategic insight, and calm execution ensured that the operation succeeded without bloodshed. The council witnessed not only his skill, but also the strength of cooperation between humans and Zalara. The rival factions were neutralized, at least temporarily, and the path for diplomatic progress was secured. In the aftermath, Zareth addressed the council. This situation has revealed much about loyalty, courage, and the value of cooperation. Captain Ethan Kane, a human, has demonstrated qualities that remind us that strength comes not from authority alone, but from integrity, intelligence, and empathy. Let this serve as a lesson to all. Unity and trust are our greatest assets. The council members, alien and human alike, nodded in agreement. Ethan's role was acknowledged, and the respect he earned among the Zalaran people grew immensely. Even those who had doubted him could not ignore the clear evidence of his contributions. As evening fell over the floating gardens, Zareth and Ethan met in private once more. The tension of the past days had eased, replaced by mutual respect and understanding. "You have done more than protect your delegation," the Queen said softly. "You have shown my people and me the potential of humans. Your courage, intelligence, and empathy are remarkable." Ethan smiled modestly. "I only did what I thought was right, Your Majesty. But I am grateful for your trust and for the chance to work alongside you. Together we have achieved more than I could alone." Zareth regarded him thoughtfully. "Yes, and yet there is more to come. The bonds we have formed, the understanding we have built, these will be tested. But I now believe that with humans and Zalara working together, we can face any challenge, even those born from the mistakes of the past." For the first time in decades, the Queen felt a sense of hope. The past had been difficult, marked by loss, unanswered questions, and political intrigue. Yet here was a human, unconnected by obligation, who had shown her the possibilities of cooperation, courage, and resilience. In Ethan Kane, she saw not a reflection of her lost husband, but a living testament to humanity's potential. And so, as the twin moons of Zalara rose over the citadel, the city shimmered with renewed promise. The danger had been confronted, the conspiracy exposed, and trust had been strengthened. Humans and Zalara had taken a step closer to true partnership, guided by courage, intelligence, and the quiet strength of one exceptional individual. The challenges of the future remained, but the path forward was now clearer. And at the center of it all stood Captain Ethan Kane and Queen Zareth, a human and an alien, united by purpose, respect, and a shared understanding that the greatest strength of any. The citadel of Zalara glowed under the rising twin suns, its towers gleaming like crystals in the golden light. After the recent upheaval, the city was calm but alert. Queen Zareth moved through the corridors with purpose, her mind focused on the challenges ahead. The council had been stabilized, rival factions subdued, and Captain Ethan Kane had proven himself not only capable but indispensable. Yet there was still much to do. Ethan walked beside her through the upper terraces, observing the floating gardens as they swayed gently above the ground. He had learned much about Zalara's technology, its culture, and its politics. But he also understood something deeper. The city was alive not just in its machines or architecture, but in its people, their intelligence, their emotions, their sense of duty. "Captain Kane," Zareth said softly, "you have exceeded all expectations. You have faced dangers, navigated political intrigue, and shown qualities that remind us why humans are remarkable. But your presence here has also stirred memories I thought long buried." Ethan looked at her, noting the faint shadow in her eyes. "Your Majesty, I am only doing what I must. But I realize that my presence has affected more than just the mission. If my being here brings clarity or understanding, then I am glad." Zareth smiled faintly. "It brings more than understanding. It brings resolution. There are questions about the past that have remained unanswered for decades. Questions about my ex-husband, about missions that vanished into mystery. And now, perhaps the answers can finally emerge." Together they entered a secure chamber deep within the citadel, one few had ever seen. The walls were lined with historical archives, glowing softly with holographic records that preserved centuries of knowledge. Zareth activated the central console, revealing a series of encrypted files marked with symbols that indicated extreme importance. "These records," she explained, "contain information about missions conducted between humans and Zalara decades ago. Many explorers vanished. Some were believed lost to space, yet their contributions shaped both civilizations in ways few realize. Among these records is the story of someone I once knew, someone who disappeared and whose fate has haunted me ever since. Ethan studied the holograms carefully. Images of past explorers, mission logs, and reports of genetic studies appeared. He noticed patterns: volunteers who had undergone specialized training, missions that involved high-risk exploration, and research on bridging human and Zelleran abilities. Zarath's voice was steady but tinged with emotion. "Your resemblance to my ex-husband is not coincidental, Captain Kane. You are connected in ways even you may not fully understand. Some of your genetic traits, your training, and your innate abilities were influenced by programs designed to echo qualities of past explorers. You carry the legacy of those who ventured into the unknown before you." Ethan's mind raced. "You mean I am a product of these programs? A continuation of the explorers' work?" "Yes," Zarath replied softly. "Not a replacement, but a reminder of what humans can achieve. You are living proof of courage, intelligence, and resilience. Your presence here has bridged not only our civilizations, but also the past and present." The weight of the revelation settled on Ethan, but he felt no fear. Instead, a sense of purpose filled him. He had known humans were capable of great things, but seeing it recognized on this scale, and understanding his unique role, strengthened his resolve. "We must act," Zarath continued, "to ensure that both humans and Zellara learn from the past. The rival factions we subdued may attempt to rise again, but with cooperation, intelligence, and courage, we can prevent conflict and build a lasting partnership." Ethan nodded. "Then we proceed together. Humans and Zellara working as allies, sharing knowledge, and protecting one another. That is how trust is built." Over the next several days, preparations were made for a historic council session. Representatives from all Zelleran factions, along with the human delegation, gathered in the main chamber. The tension was palpable. Some alien council members still harbored doubts, and whispers of intrigue lingered in the air. Zarath addressed the assembly with calm authority. "We have faced threats from within, and observed the strength of cooperation between species. Captain Ethan Kane has shown us the value of courage, intelligence, and empathy. His actions remind us that potential is not limited to one species alone." Ethan stepped forward, speaking with respect and clarity. "I stand here not as an individual, but as a representative of humanity. We have much to learn, but we also bring resilience, ingenuity, and the will to protect those we care for. Together, humans in Zellara can achieve what neither could alone." The council listened in silence, absorbing the weight of the words. Slowly, nods of agreement spread. Even the skeptical factions recognized the truth in Ethan's message. The risks of conflict, the lessons of the past, and the promise of cooperation became clear. With the council unified, agreements were signed for joint projects in exploration, research, and cultural exchange. Technologies that had been shared only cautiously were open to collaboration, with safeguards to ensure safety and mutual benefit. The alliance was historic, unprecedented in scale, and built not merely on treaties but on trust forged through courage and cooperation. Zarath turned to Ethan privately. "You have done more than any council session could achieve. You have changed minds, built bridges, and reminded my people of the value of unity. For that I'm grateful." Ethan smiled humbly. "I could not have done it alone, Your Majesty. Your wisdom, guidance, and courage made it possible. Humans can only reach so far without allies who understand and respect them." For the first time in decades, Zarath felt a sense of closure. The memories of her ex-husband, the questions that had haunted her, and the regrets she had carried were no longer chains but lessons. Ethan was not her past, but he embodied the qualities she had cherished: bravery, intelligence, and compassion. Through him, she could reconcile the past while looking confidently toward the future. The celebration that followed in the Citadel was both grand and intimate. Humans and Zellerans mingled, shared stories, and marveled at one another's achievements. Music, light displays, and holographic performances filled the floating gardens. Ethan observed the interactions, noting the wonder, curiosity, and joy in the faces of those who had once viewed each other as strangers. In a quiet moment, Zarath and Ethan stood on a terrace overlooking the city. The twin suns cast long shadows across the gardens, and the air shimmered with the energy of progress and hope. "You have shown my people what humans can be," Zarath said softly, "and you have shown me that courage, intelligence, and empathy are not bound by species, time, or circumstance." Ethan looked out at the city, his heart filled with quiet pride. We have only begun, Your Majesty. Together, humans and Zalara can explore new worlds, learn from one another, and face whatever challenges lie ahead. Zareth nodded. Yes. And with that, we begin a new chapter, not just for our civilizations, but for the bonds between them. You have proven that the greatest strength lies in cooperation, trust, and the willingness to face the unknown with courage. As night fell, the citadel glowed under the twin moons. Lights reflected on the floating gardens, creating a scene of unparalleled beauty. Ethan and Zareth stood together, looking at the horizon. The past had been reconciled, the present secured, and the future full of possibilities. Humanity had left its mark on Zalara, not through conquest or domination, but through bravery, intelligence, and empathy. And one human guard, Captain Ethan Kane, had reminded an alien queen and her civilization that courage and cooperation could transcend history, species, and even the mysteries of time. The alliance between humans and Zalara was more than political. It was a symbol of trust, understanding, and hope. And at the center of it stood a human and an alien, united not just by circumstance, but by the recognition that the universe was far larger and more connected than either had ever imagined. In the quiet aftermath, Zareth reflected on the journey. The questions that had haunted her for decades had been answered, not perfectly, but in a way that brought peace. And as she watched Ethan return to his team, leading with quiet strength and wisdom, she realized that the future was bright, not just for Zalara, but for the humans who had shown that courage. Intelligence and empathy could change worlds, and so, with trust restored, threats neutralized, and alliances forged, the story concluded, not with an ending, but with a beginning. A beginning that promised adventure, discovery, and the enduring power of cooperation. Humanity had arrived on Zalara not just as guests, but as partners, proving once again that courage, heart, and ingenuity are the true markers of greatness.